Alright, doing video requests. So, this one's from an B. Kyle request. Why is ISIS a bunch of crazy fucking psychos? How can a religion fuck people so much into being this way? Okay, so. Why is ISIS such a bunch of crazy assholes? I think ISIS is a bunch of crazy assholes. I think, well, number one, I think it's extremely complicated. I think there's lots of stuff going on in the world that are causing people to be all weird like that. This thing's going to run out of batteries. Just have to use another one. It's plugged up, but it can't charge and stay charged while it's plugged. So then I have to go to the other camera, which has a small screen. For some reason, I have to fiddle with the settings. Anyway, with ISIS, they are... I think what's going on with ISIS and why they're going crazy is, number one, let me say that people have always defaced historical things. This is nothing new. It's the only thing new about this is that it's the first time it's actually been filmed and everybody's actually seen 5,000-year-old things get destroyed. But I think what's going on with ISIS is that these people in these places have been at war, such bloody war for, so many years, since 2001, and then even before that, just so much stress that when people are under enough duress, they snap, and they start thinking in ways that are not logical, and they start, they go into warrior mode, basically, and I think they went into this, us versus them warrior mode, because they were just so in dire straits, and there's so much pain and sadness and death around for so long that they broke. They had a psychotic snap, and they all went psychotic. So they're crazy, not from their religion. It's not like religion makes them go crazy. It's the violence and the situation that they're in that makes them go crazy. And then they use the religion as something to bring themselves together. People always need something to bring each other together. Like the Germans in the 40s, it was how they hate the Jews, and so the easiest way for stupid, angry people, whose brains have switched off because they're in such emotional duress, that the easiest way to bring themselves together is by uniting under whatever the fuck against them. And so the easiest thing to unite under is the thing that separates us from them the most, because then they can't have any of that identity. It's all our identity. And so that was their little sect of Islam. And so they needed to fight against everything that was against what they were and their little religion. And so they see these museums as being something that the outside supported and it was interested in, and represented the history for the whole world. And so that's not them; that's the rest of the world. And so they're going to get pissed off at the rest of the world by destroying these objects. Also, it's a strategical. Well, as far as like the Young Turks, they say that they're actually doing it, planning it, to try to bring them in to fight and to create the end times. And I do believe that. I do believe that both fundamentalist Christians here in America and fundamentalist Muslims there in the Middle East both expect there to be a end time battle, Armageddon type battle, because it's written in the Bible. And so they want to actually make it real. They want to make it real because they think that you can't graduate to the next level of society, utopian society, without having the battle. You have to have the battle first. So they're trying to expedite the battle so that they can get out. That's what I think they're thinking, kind of subconsciously. Maybe even not even. They're definitely not talking about this to each other at the cocktail parties. You know that. But they are thinking, subconsciously. Maybe even so subconsciously, they don't even know that they're doing it subconsciously. But they want that fight. They want to do the fight. And everybody thinks that they're going to win because, of course, God's on your side. When God's on your side, that's the only logic you need. You don't need to count the tanks or anything. So yeah, so I think that's what's boiling down is we're boiling down to a end time battle. Now, there's not going to be any end time battle like that unless there's a nuclear war or something. That's not going to happen. So they're just going to keep hacking each other's brains off, heads off, pushing each other off the roof until people basically get sick of that, until people wake up from their bloodthirsty frenzy, because that whole frenzy that's kind of, you know, that fuels you, and that can be fun, I guess. It's like a high that you get, but it can't last. You know, it's kind of like an adrenaline rush. Can only last for like 10 minutes. Once their adrenal glands burn out, once their anger units burn out, the hippie type, they're gonna lose their energy, and then the hippie type of people are gonna come up, and they're gonna use their hippie words and psychology, you know, and mind to convince people to try to chill out and you know, not be so violent. But if we hadn't have invaded Iraq, none of this would be happening. They had a perfectly set down, as far as what they were capable of, system. You know, they had their strongman, who was the Sunni, who was the minority, somehow got in power. So he was taking care of his minority. And then the Shia, maybe I'm getting it mixed up, but who were the majority, took care of their own. And so it was this kind of a delicate balance, but it was this balance, you know, that was appropriate to the mind level, to the education level. Now, some people are like, how could they be so crazy and stupid? Okay, don't go to the religion of why they're so crazy and stupid. It's the situation they're in, their level of education. So what the question you should be asking is, why are they so ignorant? And the reason of that is that, you know, Saudi Arabia is just a big desert. It's like a dead-end desert. Nobody would ever go down there. There's no reason to go down there. It's like a corner. Look at it on the map. It's this corner peninsula of sand. Okay, so since the beginning of time, the only people who were there were just cow herders, you know, and also you had if you're talking about Iraq, you know, because that used to be a beautiful, one of the most advanced places in the world, you know, back in the beginning. But Iraq went down when they were the most advanced people 1,000 years ago, 1100, and then Genghis Khan came in and killed everybody, and basically reprogrammed the whole Middle East, more than anywhere else in the world. They did it in China too, but mainly in the Middle East. And so they basically transformed the religion. It basically turned into another religion. It was a religion of intelligence, and then it turned into a religion of the barbarian nomads. And so they, and then people got afraid, it got barbaric because of that, and then people got afraid to travel the Silk Route, so it wasn't traveled, and then so their economy suffered, and their eclecticism recovered, and then we figured out a way to take the boats to China and India and stuff, and so then we completely, in fact, that was one of the reasons why Columbus found the New World, is because they were trying to find a way to get to China without having to go through the Middle East, because of all of the Crusades. You know, that wasn't so far after the Crusades, and they thought they were evil, and you know, the Crusades were, if you study the Crusades, the bad guys in the Crusades were the Christians, not the Muslims. The Muslims were more humane, and they were more defensive, and they did amazing things. For example, when the Muslims took Jerusalem back, they let all the Christians go. They didn't kill anybody. They let them all go. It's even in a movie starring Orlando Bloom. You can see the scene. When the Christians took Jerusalem, they killed everybody. Okay, so anyway, that's why they're so ignorant. It's because they've just backwards. It's kind of like it's the same question you should be asking. How come people in Oklahoma, you know, have sex with their sisters and think the world is flat, you know, and think that they don't think the world is flat. But how come they're having sex with their cousins and they think that, you know, marijuana is evil, and that it's Colorado's fault for causing Oklahoma to lose all their money pulling over Colorado drivers trying to bust them for weed. So now they're trying to sue Colorado because they didn't get money off of the people they tried to bust because they thought there was weed in their car driving across Oklahoma. Well, the reason for that is because they're bumfuck nowhere, dude. I mean, if you grow up and you have no exposure to anything, like, how are you going to be smart? You know, human beings aren't designed to just suck knowledge out of the air. You have to be surrounded by people who are smart. You have to be educated. You have to be in a system of education, and there's no education there. So going there and fighting them and shooting them is like what they expect you to do, and you know, we're the bad guys because you go and shoot. If we go there and give them stuff, then, you know, sure, at the beginning they'll be a little bit not trusting, but then they'll eventually come around, and they'll see us as the shining city on the hill again, you know, and they'll respect us. And if we say don't torture, they'll go, oh, okay, right, sorry, we forgot, and they won't torture. We can't do that now because we torture, but yeah, that's what's going on with ISIS. It's just the main reason this whole insurgency has happened is people are incredibly stressed. And when people are incredibly stressed and they can't do anything, like you're in a society of suppression where you can't express yourself, or, you know, like they can't, like the gay people there can't be gay or else they get killed, then it bottles up energy because people can't express their you know, their minds. And so it creates all this bottled up energy that grows and grows, and then people have to express it somehow, and then they do it the violent way because that's the only way you can do it and stay safe. If you're the bad guys kicking everybody else's ass, at least you're not, you're yourself getting kicked out, your ass getting kicked. Unless you light up a cigarette when you think nobody's looking, and then you only get your head chopped off. So it's kind of like a pendulum, you know. Right now we're swinging way over to the angry kill side, but that's so swung over that way that it's not going to last for another 2 more years. We don't need to go in there and fight them. Just let them kill each other, and then they'll get sick of it. Wars only last 4 or 5 years. Look at the wars, all the wars in history. World War II, 5 years. World War I, 5 years. Civil War, 5 years. This war, 5 years. La, 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 you name it, 5 years, dude. ISIS are going to be fucking pissed off for about 5 years. They're all going to get tired. They're all going to die. Pendulum's going to go over here. Hippies are going to go, okay, let's just educate, teach people how to read, teach people history of your own country. And then it'll go over here, and then people will be like fucking crazy, like effusive, angry, talking words, you know. Maybe they'll punch each other in the face, but at least they won't be shooting each other. They'll be fist fighting in Parliament, but they won't be shooting each other on the streets, you know. It's like a progressive growth in their society. But basically, I'll end this video in case you didn't understand me the first 3 or 4 times I said it. What's going on with ISIS right now is they've been fighting for so long that there's so much pain and so much, you know, war and death and blood that's all they know. And so they become warriors. They go into warrior mode and they go crazy, and their IQ drops and their adrenaline goes up, and they go because of the strife. It's the same exact thing that if you were to, like, you know, beat up your kid over and over again and then kick him out of the house, you know, and then you were to see him 5 years later, he'd be this homeless dude, really angry on the street, spitting at people. You know, it's just a product of the circumstance. But it's not a Muslim thing. Like you said, how did religion fuck people up? People were already fucked up. They found the religion to bring them together so that they could, you know, make alliances against their enemy, you know. That's the main thing about what bad, stupid people do, is they get their alliances. That's how they do business. It's kind of like Survivor, you know, the TV show Survivor. It's modeled off of barbaric political practices, making alignments to take out the other motherfucker. You know, we need to cancel that TV show and start a new TV show called, like, you know, cooperative or something, where you have these 2 different cooperatives and they all have to cooperate to create some great, you know, not like that idiot Donald Trump. Different teams go out and try to solicit people for money, and whoever gets the most money wins. No. Different teams get together, they cooperate to, like, build something. Like, build a house out of Elmer's glue and matchsticks, and whoever makes the highest house wins. You know what I mean? Shit like that. No more alignments, no more fucking us versus them. But they can't learn that. They don't have the education to come up with those ideas. Their brains aren't working. They're monkey people shooting each other, knocking 5,000-year-old statues off the wall. So they need us. They need us to show them. How are we going to show them? By doing it ourselves, not by torturing people in Guantanamo Bay and getting angry with them and saying Muslim, Muslim. They need us to show them how it's done, you know? When they're sitting around, when their little hippie kids are sitting around the table going, well, Allah, there must be some Allah, heaven, what is heaven like? Well, let's show them what heaven is like. Heaven is where people get to say whatever they fuck they want, and people don't get pissed off, where people get to grow their hair out, where people get to smoke weed, where people do this thing called arguing points, and they're like, oh, wow, look at the YouTube, look at how they argue. Wow, look at how they don't shoot, you know? And then that's how it happens, but you need an example. And we're not being the example. We're stooping to their level. So that's what I think about ISIS. Okay, peace out.